Hey guys, how's it going? It's Kyle here with another Exos Heroes video. In today's video, I want to talk about Unleashed Potential 2.0 because now it's actually affecting fated characters, affecting fate core characters. There's a new currency that's involved with it, so it's a completely new system that's actually really important and is going to be very game changing for a lot of characters. And I ended up making this. You'll see this infographic here in a second. It's very basic, but I think it's going to help kind of visualize what you can expect in these characters because there's patterns that seem to be repeatable, and I haven't seen any exceptions to these yet so far. Let's take a look on how you can know what the passive is going to be at the end of an Unleashed Potential character based on their passive. Looks overwhelming at first. This is not a good infographic, I know, but I'm going to explain it, and it's kind of helping me with a visual guide on just so I don't have to keep going in between each character to show this off. As you can see here, the things I want you to focus on, passive and then the Unleashed Potential effect. That's all we're caring about for this video. And then the move associated with it, it's not very clear because, like, for example, thrust, we're showing off Shufraken's move. Don't care about Shufraken's move. All we care about is the Unleashed Potential effect. For example, it's like to the right of it, but then if you look down here, cleanse 3, and then you go down, that's Iris. It's just, I just wanted to make this quick and kind of talk about this. So I'll make a cleaner one if you guys want this later, and then I'll put it on my Discord. Okay, so the big thing I've noticed is it's all just like how they do their stats in this game, where it's like you can expect, like you look at a counter character and you know what kind of stats to expect. Or if you see a thrust character, you know that they're going to be like high defense, low speed kind of thing. Same thing with the Unleashed Potential. So for example, if you see a thrust 3 character, a classic one's Shufraken, they're going to have the Unleashed Potential effect. If you go through the third tree at the very end, it's going to reduce allies damage by 15%. That's on every single one of them. Another version that does that is Protect 3. They have the 15% reduced damage, can't be stacked, reduces all allies damage by 15%. And then the last one that does that are Cleanse 3 characters, but they actually get a 30%. So it kind of makes sense because they're significantly more squishy. So 30% is going to be kind of roughly the same as the 15% on the Protect 3 and the Thrust 3 characters. So then now we'll look at the passives for the moves you get if you actually go through that tree on the Unleashed Potential. So for example, on Thrust 3, it does 75% of own defense when attacked, when the attack hits. Whereas the Protect 3 also does the same thing. The defense percentages seem to differ based on the A1 and the A2, I've noticed. So for example, this is 75% of the A, it's always 75%. I believe it's 60% on the A1s for these guys. And then Cleanse is a little different, whereas it does actually deals additional 12% of own maximum health damage when the attack hits. And then it's a smaller percentage for the A1. I want to say 8% for the A1, but every single move here always has a very similar version of it in the A1 as well. That's why I only just picked one of these. Okay. And I think that's kind of cool that they do that. Because they do the health, because if you look at characters with Cleanse, they always have a high health base. Like that's just kind of how their stats go. Whereas defense and health is more of a protect and thrust thing. So I think it's kind of cool. And then lastly, block is the other one that has something very similar, where it's going to be reduces all allies damage by 15%, can't be stacked, but then they're a little different, whereas they have 60% defense on the A2 because they have so much more defense, I believe, in their just base. So I think that's why they went with a lower modifier for a very similar effect here. Hopefully now, as you're seeing this, you're starting to see the patterns. Now let's take a look at the other ones. I went with those guys because they're just so similar. We have thrust, protect, and block all being almost identical, except they are adjusting the modifiers based on the kind of base stats you can expect with these characters. And then the Cleanse character, very similar too, but instead of doing defense, they go with health because they're always going to have a ton of health. Next, we have Focus Fire and Mana Absorb, and they have very similar effects you can get from the Unleashed Potential effect. So both of them on the Focus Fire, you're going to get the deals additional 1,000 piercing damage when attacking an enemy. They both have it. And then they also gain on their moves here. So this is an example of a piercing darkness. We have, this is Dorka, I believe. And then we also have Valentina down here for the example on the Mana Absorb. But the Unleashed Potential effect is afflicts the target with bind for 2 turns. This when the attack hits, can't be removed. And then Cage of Despair afflicts the target with bind for 2 turns when the attack hits can't be removed. So when I look at this, focus fire characters are very fast. Mana absorb characters are very slow. I'm inclined to believe that this passive greatly helps out fast characters way more than it helps slow characters, in my opinion, because bind is once you apply that effect, they can't gain mana for those 2 turns, through the natural means of gaining mana. Going first and then kind of pseudo silencing someone significantly better than having to wait until you're like last in the rotation. They've already kind of been generating mana this whole time, so they might not miss a turn or anything. So it's like when I look at this, but at the same time, mana absorb characters do a ton of damage, or at least Valentina. I haven't really messed with too many mana absorb characters. I don't have FC Janai. I believe she's a mana absorb character. To be honest, it's the one general I've never pulled once, so I have like almost zero experience with Janai. So the one I do use though is Valentina. She does a ton of damage. Having that, as I'm saying this though, she already does a ton of damage. Why would I want even more damage? But at the same time, characters are getting tankier and stuff like that, so it probably can help. It's just I don't like how slow she is for this. And then her specifically, her whole point of her kit was like mana burn and bind and stuff like that. And so now she's becoming redundant with her unpassive. It's just weird. Maybe she's like a really bad example of that. But at the same time, just any character, if you give me a character that is slow and then you give them bind as the passive you're gaining, that doesn't seem like good synergy at all. Whereas all the other ones seem to make perfect sense with this one. For example, characters like Dorka in the focus fire category are going to benefit like really well, is my prediction. So then lastly, we have the counter characters. And then we also have, I didn't put them on here, but we have the characters like Dorka. We have mana utilization characters. That's who I forgot. So just picture them on here. They're right here somewhere. Here, where's my camera? They're right. They should be right here. But mana absorb, or not mana absorb. Characters like Bathory, characters like Annie, they have the mana utilization. They're going to gain the same passive as counter, which is you gain 1 mana to self it when the round starts, and then you have on a move, you have the unleashed potential effect resets turn 1 time per round if own mana is under 3 after the skill hits. I think that's really interesting synergy and the one I want to try the most, but I'm like hesitant to want to try it because it's so many resources to get one whole tree. And I went all the way on Shell's passive already because I thought the 30% I'm using Shell all the time, and I went ham on like actually getting her geared up. So she's one of my best characters. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to put the unleashed potential in there, see what happens. But the one I want to try though is these unleashed potentials for these resets, because I think for some characters it makes no sense, and for some characters I think it can be really impactful. Like for example, what I'm thinking of is Blue Rachel, or let me back up and say I think characters that have a burst move, this is really going to benefit, but they not only need to have a burst move, they need to have a 1 mana move on their A2 that is really strong. So I was thinking like Annie, I don't believe it's a 1 mana. I think it's a 2 mana for the silence. If you can somehow make a way to where you can try to, maybe you could double silence. You could like silence be less. You have like 1 or less. You gain 1 mana when you go again, and you silence another person, so you can get like double silence. Or for example, in the case of Blue Rachel, like I was saying earlier, you could like completely nuke someone, and then he gets to reset because now he has 0 mana, and then now he gets to silence someone with his A1 because it's only 1 mana. A very similar style move of FC Annie. So like I think there's a lot of potential there. And then we have move resets with Shell just based on her kit. Like there's a lot of cool things we can do there. But at the same time, sometimes I'm like, okay, you just use your nuke with Bathory, and then now you have 0 mana, and what do you do? Auto. So you just have this whole passive. You put all these resources in just to get that. Like that doesn't seem very good at all. I would say characters that have really good auto attack, again, they could be up there if they have moves that are maybe characters that don't have burst moves, and so then you can really plan out exactly how much mana you're going to have left, and then you can like double up on a move. Like they have like a 3 mana move, and you're able to time it. So you have 5 mana, you use that, and you had 2, so that's less than, and then you go again, you have 3, and then you do it again, something like that. I think there's a lot of options there, but definitely is going to take some trial and error to see where it's good, where it's not. I almost just want to Hopefully there's some whales up at the top of arena that are going to do this quickly and we can see how it actually works in practice. That's pretty much what I'm thinking of when I'm looking into this. At the moment, the ones I'm debating on Bathory. I was thinking about doing Bathory for this. I also was thinking about doing FC Annie, but not really. I was thinking about that was kind of like a side thing just because I thought the whole silence mechanic was cool. But I'm really not sold on that because I don't like it because her ult is a burst move, so she's gonna have 0 mana, so I just don't think it's possible. And I believe it takes 2 mana for FC Annie on her A1. And then lastly, it was Rara. I was thinking Rara. Oh, there is one thing I don't know. If you look at these focus fire characters here, so when you do the unleash potential, so the focus fire deals an additional 1000% piercing. That's awesome. But then if you look at this move here is a single target move. But imagine this is the A1 of Dorka where you get the AoE. It still says afflicts the target with bind. So do you have to make sure even on an AoE move, you're clicking the right person and then that one person gets binded or the entire team gets binded? Because if that's the case, then that has to be like by far one of the most impactful for Arena. You put it on Rara and then you go Rara, Annie, she AoEs and then boom, everyone's binded. It's like GG. So I'd be shocked. Even if you just pick one character, that's still very impactful. Imagine binding the entire team. They can't be removed. Like there's just no way around it. So maybe old school machine sets, then you're just like super weak. So yeah, like I think there's a lot of cool options here. And then all of that is just the actual additional move you get, let alone all the stats you get. If you actually look at the stats, they're really good. Like you get extra speed, that you get like 2000 health per, if you're on the health node, you're getting like a little under 5,000 health total. There's a lot of critical hit rating that you can add to characters. I think that can, really be a game changer for a lot. So after all this, the thing I like the most about this is that I feel like we're finally getting enough resources and enough ways of progressing our character to actually be able to take on these super hard versions of campaign without making them just complete nightmare to play. Where I don't feel like I'm just getting one shot anymore. It's like we finally have the means. Like I feel like these should be the things. I guess they should have timed things better where it's like, okay, well here, now you can burst your character this way and this way. The drawback is that it's getting overwhelming, but at the same time, they're actually giving us tools to where we're not having to just cheese out these wins. We actually get to, play the game. So I think that's cool. I think this is only good things. If you like content like this, please consider subscribing. Definitely helps with the channel. And with that, you guys have a good one. Peace.